Hey guys, it's me again, obviously. I want to talk to you guys about some heavy stuff today. So this is going to be my story, my journey, the first of many. But we're going to take you back to when I was about 20 years old. I was living on my own, all by myself, and I had this one. Well, it wasn't a bedroom. It was a studio apartment, and it was on the top of this house. Basically, one night after I've been living here about 6 months, I needed to go do laundry. It was really late. It was about midnight, and I had to go out and do this laundry so I could go to a wedding the next day. So I took my laundry and went to the really nice one that was behind my apartments, but it was completely filled up. I could not, you're not going to wait until like 3 o'clock in the morning to even start washing. So I decided to get my laundry, and I would go across town and do my laundry at the Dutch Maid, and which is not as nice. It's pretty run down now, but it gets the job done. It's a washer and dryer. So I went over there, and to my surprise, there was absolutely nobody there. And that's what I wanted. So I went ahead and I put my laundry in. Excuse me. I put my laundry in, and I'd been sitting there for about an hour. I just switched over the loads, and a Hispanic man walks in. Now, if you don't know me and you're watching this, I do not have a hateful bone in my body unless you've done something to me to make me hateful. So I'm not one to be prejudiced against another race or culture, or another human being. So I'm gonna give you a chance before I know that I just don't like you. So I'm not prejudiced, but he was Hispanic, and I didn't know if he knew English or not, but he started talking to me in perfect English, mind you. Perfect English. He's talking to me, and he's saying things like, "Hey, how are you?" Nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, he was just trying to make small talk at first, and then about another hour goes by. My clothes are getting dry, and he's just been talking to me, asking me about my religion, about about my job, and about all this stuff. And it wasn't weird to me, because lots of people in that town are like, "Oh, where do you work? Like, what do you do when you get to know somebody?" Those are the questions that you typically ask. So I was like, "Oh, well, he's just trying to be nice, whatever." So I get ready to put my laundry up, and the laundry, I put it in the basket because it was dry, and he picks up the basket for me, and I was like, "Oh, you don't have to do that. That's okay. I've got it." And he's like, "No, let me help you to the car." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I let him help me to the car. He puts my laundry in the car, and compliments the way I look, tells me that I'm beautiful. He's hitting on me now, and at this point in time, I didn't recognize that, because I've never been one to catch people flirting with me. I'm just not good at it. So I didn't even know my husband when he was trying to get at me. I didn't know he was trying to get at me. I just thought he was being stupid, so I didn't know that either. So anyway, he was very suave, which I didn't mind him being Hispanic. Like, now I'm more prone to look at all these red flags that are happening before I even go forward with a relationship or even a friendship with anybody that I just don't know. It doesn't, not just Hispanic people, but all people in general. So basically, I got in the car, and he shut the door for me. He asked me for my phone number because earlier in the day I had asked him if he would like to come to a church revival at my church. And he had said yes, that would be great. And I had told him that I would tell my youth pastor his address or whatever when he's ready. You know, I would give him my youth pastor's phone number, and the youth pastor could come get him, because you never know. So I went ahead and, you know, called it a night, and I said, well, I really have to go, and you know, told him goodbye, and I left. Well, about 5 minutes after I get home, he is texting my phone. And we've been texting for about a day and a half, and nothing out of the normal. Like, it was just, you know, hey, how's it going? You know, friendship stuff. So I went ahead and I would talk to him. Well, one day he asked if we could meet up, because he wanted to talk to me. And I said, well, yeah, I'm sure, but it has to be in a public place, because I was naive, but I was not stupid. So I went ahead and I met him at a Brahms, because it was a public place and there would be people there in case, you know, something went wrong or went south or something along those lines. So there'd be somebody there that could vouch for me and help me. So, you know, nothing out of the normal happened at that point in time. We had ice cream. I paid for mine. He paid for his. It wasn't like a date or anything. And I took him home. And then about a day and a half after that, this man shows up at my door. And I had no idea how he got there. I didn't know that he knew where I lived. I had no idea how he knew where I lived in the first place. So I just kind of brushed it off, and I was like, oh, well, maybe he just, you know, he saw me here on the porch or something driving by, because I was right off of Broadway. So I figured, and you can see the house from the highway. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's just driving by, and maybe he saw me on the porch, and that's how he found out. Well, I just didn't really like put two and two together at that point in time, because I was very naive back then. So I just kind of brushed it off, and he wanted to come inside, and he wanted to talk about Jesus. He said, he's like, I know it's really late or whatever, but I wanted to know if you would want to talk about your church. And I was like, well, sure. I mean, yeah, I'm all down for talking about Jesus. So I went ahead and I let him in my house, and we've been, you know, talking for a few minutes, just as, you know, our normal, you know, hey, how's it going, what's up, you know. And then I don't know why I wanted to listen to some music, so I went to go grab my laptop. And when I went to grab the laptop, I had barely even touched the laptop, and he was behind me in my room. And my room, let me just give you a visual on what my room was. My room was basically it was just a cutout hole or an indention in the wall that fit my bed and a nightstand, and that was it. I had a lamp, a nightstand, and my bed in this little nook. There's not anywhere to run. There was nowhere to, basically you're backed in a corner. So he's behind me in my room, and I said, hey, what are you doing? And he came on me and assaulted me. Raped me in my own house, in my own room, in my own bed. When something like that is happening, you go into somewhat of a shock, because you can't really, at first you can't really scream, you can't really say anything but no. I did say no. I had, when I realized what the heck was happening, I was like, no, I don't want to do this, get off of me, and he would not. So at this point he was raping me, and at one point he did tell me that nobody would hear me, nobody will come, so shut up. And he continued to hold me down and hurt me. So at this point I stopped trying, I stopped fighting, I stopped caring. And I feel like as a rape victim, when something like that happens, you're not taught what to do. You're not taught what to do when someone that you know hurts you in that manner. You're taught as a young child that if a stranger tries to take you, you scream, you make noise, and you run away. You're not usually taught if you know the person. Like, you're just not, us as young girls are not taught things like that. Like, you're not taught to scream, you're not taught to fight back, you're not taught, you just don't know. So, and I just feel like that's because of lack of knowledge, because you just don't think about things like that. So I didn't know what to do, so I just let it happen until, I just laid there and prayed that he would stop, or that it would stop, or God would do something. And all of a sudden I got this urge of energy, and I fought hard. I fought him off of me, and I got him out of my home. I'm not sure what clicked in me, but I went from flight to fight in, I'm not sure how long it was, but the mood changed, and I fought him out of my house. And then I realized that I know absolutely nothing about this man. The only thing I know is that he's told me that his name's Jose. He works at Tyson's. And that he lives somewhere in Monette. That is 3 things. And I should have known so much more about this man before I even let him inside my door. But I didn't, and I did, so what's done is done. The first thing that I did after this incident and getting him out of my house and the door locked was I cried, because I felt like I had let go of every single value that I had ever been taught for growing up. And I thought that God was going to disown me because I had given up my virginity. But in all actuality, I didn't, because It was taken from me. It was not voluntarily given. I was hurt. I was abused. Like, that was not my fault. But at this point in time, that's not what I'm thinking. All I'm thinking about is, oh my gosh, like, oh my gosh, what are people gonna say? What are people gonna think? What are people gonna do? I wasn't really thinking clearly, obviously. I mean, I've just been raped. So, the first thing I did was I told a friend. I called her, and she cried with me, and she told me that I needed to go get checked out soon. It needed to be soon. So I went and I got checked out. And I went to my grandmother's house, and I had her go with me because I was shaking so bad I could barely drive over to her house down the street. So she took me. She even had to write on my paperwork for me because my whole body was shaking so bad and trembling that I couldn't do it. I couldn't write. I couldn't, like, function. I was such in a deep spot. I couldn't do it. So, I had told my best friend Nikki. I had told my grandmother and my brother. And now I'd called my mom and told her. And she's on her way. Now, when a person is abused in that manner, they do this thing called a rape test at the hospital. I won't go into any grave details on it, but it is very painful. It is 4 hours long, and they're plucking and pulling and shoving and tucking, and it's a horrible, horrible, horrible experience. And you have to, not only physically horrible, it's also horrible mentally, because you have got to tell your story and what happened. It feels like 2 million times over and over and over again to 2 million different people. I bet at least 20 people came into my hospital room and asked me what happened. And I know that's their job, but that is the last thing that you want to do when something like that happens, because you're not really sure how to say it. And me being the Christian that I was, I didn't want to say words like he put his and I didn't want it to go there and things like that. Like, you don't want to say things like that because you don't want to really come to terms with the whole thing. So it's hard and it's rough mentally and physically, because you've just been assaulted, and then you have to go in and have somebody do pelvic exams, and they take hair off of your head and off of your genitals, and it's rough. So 4 hours of that goes by. We finished the rape test, and the police officers come into my room wanting me to tell them my story again for 2 millionth time. So I tell them what happened, and the first thing that they say is not, "I'm very sorry that this has happened to you. We're going to do everything that we can to help you out. We're gonna do what we can to help you and to make sure that this man is caught." That's not the first thing that they said to me. The first thing that comes out of this man's mouth was, "Well, are you sure he was raping you?" Pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure he was. And then the next thing wasn't, okay, well, we're going to do everything we can. The next thing was, well, what were you wearing? So a man comes into your house, whether you know him or not, and physically assaults you. And the first thing that comes to your mind is, well, what were you wearing? That just blew my mind. I've just been hurt, and I'm sitting here being interrogated for what I was wearing, for me being a woman, for me saying, yes, I know that you have to interrogate each person that's in, that's been hurt. But hello, we have evidence that just was taken off my body and under my nails and all this stuff. I just have evidence that he did this to me, and you're going to ask me, what was I wearing? And from that point on, it was just a ridiculous, ridiculousness after ridiculous, because of the fact that instead of, making me feel safe, I was made to feel like, well, if you don't show up to this court hearing, we're going to drop everything. If you don't show up to this one, we're going to drop everything. And I showed up. 6 months I showed up. I put this man away, and he did a year in American prison, and he was to go back to Guatemala because he was an illegal immigrant in this country. He had hurt other girls as well, but they didn't come forward. So how can they, how can they do something if they don't come forward? So, there's that. And so I put him away. He can never hurt me again. He can never get a green card. He can never apply for citizenship. He is banned to Guatemala. I did that because I have a voice, and me as a single, was a single woman, you have to use your voice. Like, you can't stay quiet. Yes, they would like you to stay quiet. Yes, they would like you to, when somebody does something wrong, yeah, they want you to stay quiet. I don't know one person that does something wrong that wants you to go be a tattletale and tell. But I did, because that's my voice. And what would have happened if I wouldn't have told? I'll tell you what would have happened. He would have done it again, because he would have gotten away with it. He would have done it again and again. He may have even came back and did it again. And I'm not so sure that he didn't come back, because I ended up having to move out of my apartment because I couldn't stand to be in my apartment. I was traumatized. I couldn't stand to be there. I couldn't stand the sight of a Hispanic person. I couldn't stand. I was scared to death that every single Hispanic person was the exact same. And I was completely, utterly terrified. All the time. Like, I'd go to a restaurant with my family, and there would be a Hispanic family walk in. They wouldn't even have to look at me. I would have to move because I was so terrified. Because they looked like him. Not that they were him, not that they were a bad person, but they looked like him. Now, the only reason that I made this video is to show people, to show you guys that I've came a long way since 2009 when this happened. It is what, 2017 now? This was my year to heal. It doesn't just go away. When you're abused, when you're raped, when you're assaulted, When you're traumatized, it does not just go away. It's always in the back of your mind. It's always haunting you. It's always, coming forward and saying, oh, well, remember that time when this guy hurt you, when this person hurt you. It's always there. You always think about it. There's no escaping it. There's no getting over it. It's always right here in the middle of your brain, in the front of your brain, if you will. Always. And it's rough. I had to get rid of my bed. I had to move. Like, I was 20 years old. 20. Like, the very next day, I remember the very next day vividly. I had a college orientation to go to. I couldn't sit at college orientation because I was scared to death of the men that had to be sitting around me. I was scared. Constantly you're scared. And this just goes to show you that you can move past horrible traumatic things in your life. Yes, I was mad. I was mad at God for I thought, I'm so mad at you, God, because you could have like made this not happen. You could have done this, or you should have done this, or you should have done that. And in all actuality, looking back on this, if that wouldn't have happened, I'm not sure where I would have been now. Like, it made me who I am today. And who I am today is a not timid, not naive, almost 28-year-old woman that respects her body and respects other people and has a love for Jesus like you would not know. And it just goes to show you that there's so many things that can happen to you, but you can always overcome it because I believe that there's a higher power that can drive you and motivate you to be a better person and to become something better. And if I have any advice, if you are still watching and you've been through this, or somebody that has, always speak up. Always, be a supporter. If it's not you, be the supporter that person may need in order to come forward and and speak on their behalf and whatnot. So, be the supporter that they need in order to speak up and really heal, because the healing process is ongoing. Like, it will always be ongoing. And a lot of people told me, well, you just need to get over it. You can't just get over something like that traumatic. Like, you just won't. That's not logical. And really, people shouldn't say things like that, because that's just, I don't know, it's just crazy to me. Like, I don't feel like that's logical. So here I am, 10 years later, and I'm just me. I'm here. I'm more confident. I'm more I think that's the house we're looking at. Anyway, I'm more confident and more, outgoing than I was back then, and I'm married to a wonderful man that has helped me pick the pieces up and put them back together. He took my broken heart and he glued it back together with super glue, if you will. He's amazing, and I love the life that I live, and I am very proud of how I handled that situation. And again, if you have questions, if you just want to talk about something that's happened to you, I am more than happy to personal message you. I'm more than happy to be a supporter of you. So if that is you, please feel free to comment, subscribe, personal message me whenever you'd like, because I am here for you. And with that much being said, that's my story, that's my journey, and I hope you guys have a great day.